Alright, Void, I finally got around to it. Aliens versus Predator, Requiem. AVPR, AVP, they keep changing whether it's AVPR, Aliens versus Predator, or Requiem, or AVP, so, I don't even care. I'm not gonna go into it. Okay. Uh, there's a laundry list of things I want to talk about for this movie, but let's just start with the first time I saw this one in theaters. I didn't hate it. It was one of those things where I was just happy to see a bit more of an intense Alien versus Predator, and the kind of the high from seeing it in a theater. I walked out of it okay, but each subsequent viewing has left me less and less impressed. And now that I'm actually writing some of it down, I took notes. I don't often take notes, but this one I felt I would have to remember a lot of how to do it. So, AVPR picks up right after the Alien vs. Predator. That movie ended with the Alien Predator hybrid, the Predalien as they call it, bursting out of the Predator corpse. Okay, sure, fine. And that was a good stinger at the end of it. So this movie decides to be a follow-up on that and focus around the Predalien, because I guess they do something new. And I'm not opposed to that aspect. So, it causes the Predator ship to crash after surprising and killing the crew, but really that's on the Predators. They didn't check this sort of thing. Or Scar from the first one, the one who got impregnated, didn't he realize he got it? I mean, he got... You should know about the creature you're hunting here. The way they're acting, they seem to know what they're capable of, so when he got obviously face-hugged... I don't know. Anyway. So, the ship crashes, some facehuggers get out, as well as the Predalien, and an infestation begins in rural somewhere or other. Well, it's not too rural, but, it's a small town. Now, once the ship went down, a signal went back to the Predator homeworld, and our only Predator in this one gets the call to go out and clean up this mess. And he essentially is going down to act as some sort of cleaner to kill kill all the aliens and cover them up. Okay. So, we get to our main town where we're following way too many people. I get that they're trying to make this town kind of come alive, but they spend so little time with each character that they barely build up any of them. I guess the main two would be a pair of brothers, one of whom's a juvenile delinquent in high school, I guess, and his older brother who just got back from prison. So we're following them as they're pretty much, the older brother's trying to help his younger brother deal with the bullies, and while he's trying to get his girlfriend, so you got that going on. At the same time, you got the sheriff investigating the disappearance of Hunter, and meanwhile, you're following this military family who the mother just came back from service and is struggling to reconnect with her daughter. And then there's a small arc with the homeless population, so it's like, enough! Focus a little. Follow one group and have them interact with the others, but none of these connect until the climax. I mean, the homeless ones pretty much are just there for a little bit until get wiped out. But and the sheriff knows the brother, so that was okay. But then you keep occasionally following him, and then his partner, and then it's like, yeah, I get this is important, but involve the main characters a little bit more, please. If they are the main characters. And the military family seem completely extra until the very end, and I think she was just added in just so they have a MacGuffin for someone who could fly a helicopter later. Otherwise, you could take that whole family out of the film and lose nothing. Okay. So essentially, people start going missing throughout the town as the alien outbreak progresses, and the Predator is doing what he can to keep it in check, but is quickly falling behind. Meanwhile, the main characters are realizing that something's afoul and eventually realize that they're monsters and band together to find a way out of town. Before eventually splitting, one group trying to go to a government-issued evac site, while the soldier girl is like, no, that doesn't make sense. There's something off about this. Let's just take this tank, go to the hospital to find a helicopter, and get out of here that way. So our main characters split, and they each go their separate ways to try to escape the alien infestation. Okay. Plot. I don't have a problem with the plot of this movie. That's fine. Then aliens finally touch down on Earth and overrun a small town. Okay, I'm alright with that. And then adding a predator and chasing it down, sure. But there's a lot of problems here. Now, first, this one seemed to have taken the criticisms of the first one being PG-13 to heart and really ramped it up in both the language and the gore department. And I watched the uncut version, which ramped up the gore even more, supposedly. More on that later. So, okay. Fine. That really wasn't the problem, but that was a problem, but not the main problem of the last one. This one, you get the goriness, but it fails on other levels. Okay. So, first off, to the film's compliment, this movie is mean-spirited. I mean, there is a lot in here that is unnecessarily mean, and I was always given credit for that. Unlike most things, one of the first people to get face hugged is a kid. Okay. And then you actually see him get chest burst, rather than just showing that. Okay, so right off the bat, they're going to show this is going to be a bit more dark. More on that later. But the fact that that we're using CG for chest bursters didn't look right. When you looked better back in the 70s, and this one came out in what, 2006, you're having a problem. Next was when the Predalien's doing its thing and impregnating people with its own capabilities. More on that later. Yeah, I got a lot to talk about here. And it pretty much breaks into a maternity ward and begins implanting pregnant women, which they're all pretty much just kind of stuck there on birth row, pretty much. As the power's gone out, they're stuck in the hospital. One of those waters just broke, and in comes a monster to pretty much re-impregnate them with aliens as they can't escape. Okay, dark. Follow that in with, I mentioned the whole military family. They seem to put that family in there just to tear it apart. As she comes back from wars, reconnecting with her husband, the daughter's grown a little distant, so they immediately have the husband eviscerated. Sheesh. And then later on, the love interest just gets very callously and very quickly just killed off in a split second. So I will say this movie doesn't pull its punches, and as much as I can want to give it credit for that, it makes it hard to hold on, to grab on to anything to actually keep following. Because most of the characters, with the exception of maybe the military family, which I said could be removed, aren't likable. And that's kind of a problem here. We'll start there. The main two brothers, the younger one's just hard to get along with. Maybe when I was younger, I could side with him a little bit more, doing the whole teenage angst thing, but he's mouthing off at the job, which he's gotten on probation, but I'm a counselor, so he isn't really dealing well with that. Then the bully characters are obnoxious, and they're going to be around for a little bit. The girlfriend, then she keeps saying that she was going to get rid of him, but why she didn't before, and the fact that she's not really standing up to the person she's dating. Why is she dating him? She seems to hate him. I don't know. And she already seemed to know the main character liked her, so she just seems to be just like, you'll be the rebound, I guess. They try to play it off as like a longing thing, but it just came off as really shallow, and they have no chemistry. Some of the people there who are freaking out are making the stupidest choices. The sheriff is fine up until the point where he decides that he's right and everyone else is wrong, and when they're doing the split, each choosing a different rescue, then he just becomes kind of an asshole. So it's hard to engage with the characters, so I have problems there. Next, I have problems with, I guess, then with the Predalien and with the Predator. Okay, let's discuss the Predator first, because I've got a little bit less there. Okay, so I will say it was cool to see a shot of the Predator homeworld before our Predator cleaner here comes back, heads down to Earth. Now, fine, okay, I'm on board with him coming down there cleaning up the mess. He gets this weird magic blue goo that dissolves any alien thing he dumps it on, or any corpse he dumps it on, so he's using this to try to just erase the effects of the aliens. Okay, sure, I'm on board with that. He's here to sneakily get rid of all this, but as much as he's there for stealth, and he's doing the invisibility thing, he's trying to avoid contact, but when he is spotted, he kills a person. But why is he then hanging them up from trees doing the Predator things, leaving skinless bodies around? He was trying to do all this secretively. What's the point of that? Ugh. So, yeah. The Predator's actions don't make a whole lot of sense. I can buy that he's better at hunting these things than the ones in the first one, because the first ones, they were young Predators and they were rookies. Okay, I can get that. This one, he is definitely outmatching these aliens. We get the way he acts, he does convey that he's more experienced, so I let that one go. Oh, I guess one other thing before I discuss the Predalien. Then, for the human characters, I will say I pretty much just only learning their names after someone died, because then the people would just start shouting their names. So that I pretty much only learned it after someone was died or went missing, who was named what. Ugh. Yeah, I will say there was an unintentional funny line in the theater where they're debating whether to follow the government's advice to go to the center of town, or the other group who's saying to go to the helicopter. This one freaked out was like, no, that's not right. The government doesn't lie to people. I will say the whole theater burst out laughing at that point, and I will say I still do chuckle at the line. Okay, okay, the Predalien. Okay, I'm cool doing a fusion of the species. That's fine. But why does it suddenly have the ability to do this weird, then essentially face latch on, and then just forces a bunch of embryos down? It doesn't lay eggs. It instead just forcefully injects young, and does like 3 of them. So it's breeding faster. Why can it do that? Is that how predators reproduce? Why does it suddenly have this ability? So yeah, it makes it this more of a legitimate threat, but kind of the whole point of the aliens was to do this weird life cycle thing. So this thing kind of circumvents it by being this stalking face rape machine. I doesn't really get why it has the ability to do that, or why it can do what it does. The first couple times I watched it, I wasn't even thinking about that, but now it's like, it's changed the entire life cycle of the alien just because it happened to grab onto this one species. I don't get that. And I did like the look of the thing when I could see it. Most of all I could see it is a CGI representation of it when you're looking through the Predator's visor. Which, okay, I'll let that be a not great CG effect. But the movie, when I said is dark, and to put a pin on that, yeah, this movie is very dark. I could see half the shit that was going on. And when you pair that with a shaky cam, anytime there was an action sequence, I just kind of gave up. I couldn't tell who just died, what just happened for most of it, or So, okay, two things are wrestling. Is the alien winning? Is the predator winning? I couldn't even tell if it was an alien and a predator fighting. I guess the director thought the last one was too brightly lit and wasn't scary because of that, so he wanted to make this one darker and a little bit, try to be more imposing. But you went too far. Now you can't see anything. And most of the movie happens at night or in the sewers or in a darkened or the power goes out, so you can't see it. And then when you're shaking the camera all over on top of it being dark, towards the end, the main character's or the kid's boss from the pizza place that he was working at just happens to randomly rejoin them. And then when they get to the end, he's gone. I guess he died somewhere along the way. I couldn't tell when he actually got killed. There was a lot of points where I could tell someone died, but I couldn't tell who. I couldn't keep track of who was dying, when, and how they were dying. So, yeah, you put all the blood effects in, but you can't see it. Which is just infuriating. What effects you could see were good. And like, half the time, like, characters would be introduced, and then they'd suddenly be gone, and I guess you just have to assume they got killed. So, Alien vs. Predator Requiem, I can't give a positive review to. I love the concept, but it wasn't working. It's almost painful to give a Alien or Predator movie a low review. But I think I'm going to have to go all the way down to 3 MacGuffins on this one, which is what I usually reserve for something with much lower budget. Then a lot of people hated Prometheus. I didn't. I liked that one more than this one. This one cut me deep. Okay. Got that out of my system. I think I've gone through all my notes.